obviously, growing these plants in space is going to bring with it all kinds of challenges due to the effects of microgravity. I mean, first off, you got to be able to just hold the thing in place. I mean, you don't want a plant just flying around the ship all willy-nilly. Moving water around and watering these plants. Quite frankly, water doesn't disperse in the same ways under the conditions of microgravity that it would here on Earth. It doesn't disperse evenly, it's harder to measure, it's harder to move. And so that's kind of dealing with the capillary action, etc., getting it from place to place and measuring it. Now, here are some of the subsystems we're working on more in terms of how we're doing this. The chamber structure we're really leaving to the mechanicals, but plant movement we're working on our robotic arm, which my colleague will be explaining in a minute. Nutrient water controller, we're using a bunch of Arduino and Raspberry Pi subsystems to control that. Same thing with the environment lighting and the power supply computer. Again, working off of Raspberry Pi Arduino stuff to really control all the factors that these plants are going to be under. Now here's our chamber structure. And again, my colleagues will be explaining this in a bit more detail in a minute, but one of these faces, it's important to note, is going to be open. So our idea is to have one of these levels under certain conditions for the small seedling plants because they prefer different light sources, etc., according to the agriculture people, and to have a robotic arm be able to come actually outside of the structure to move it down a shelf or up a shelf wherever in order to move it to the optimal conditions. And these are just basically what we've been growing so far with the agriculture people. Again, we might be using this Brockwell, we might not, this substrate, but this is what they're going to look like. The idea is getting the seedling into, growing it here first, letting it sprout, and then getting it into a bigger thing where it can grow into a full head of lettuce.